I was like, I was thinking to myself, well, there's got to be a baseball trade show. And well, winter meetings is going on right now in San Diego. And wherever winter meetings is for the MLB, that's where their trade show is. So allow me to pitch to you, John. For 2,500, your son can take Cloud Hound, and go be a vendor there on Friday. I know it's short notice, but it's this Friday.
You have to go with him. You'd have to go with him.
I like baseball too.
If he sends the invite on LinkedIn, I'm there.
I tell you, it's a little bit scary. It's easy for me to take you guys through because I do it all the time. And this is your life. So it's a little bit scary because you feel like you're making this huge commitment. But the fact is, we could say Twin Cities, golf simulator, IT, and we could change our mind a year from now and say Costa Rica, jungle operator. We can do whatever we want. But every time we have a chance to make a decision, I think we ought to, funnel it down to a logical place. And, in your case, if you really love baseball, then, I think you need to start working on the story to get there. And, fortunately, people do like talking to veterans, and particularly with an EOD background, they'll be like, hey, this guy blew things up in Afghanistan or whatever. I mean, you can kind of get your foot in the door at cool places with that story, but you need to connect that to what it does for whoever owns the Rangers. Is the Rangers your team?
It is, yes, sir.
Yeah, so whoever owns the Rangers or the general manager needs to say, we're hiring this guy because he's going to do this, and it's going to help us sell more tickets or make more money or get more talent or whatever the heck they're trying to do. What is it you think you could do for them?
Well, I've been checking out the jobs they got right now. They have a few different engineer jobs, event coordinators. I know as far as MLB memorabilia and stuff like that there's got to be, job openings in that area where they're taking everything loves about these players and these teams and pitches it to America.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your opportunity to get a Corey Seager signed baseball, something in that area.
Well, here's an idea for you. And this is for everybody, but if you have your sight set on something that, let's say, is a very lofty goal, like working for a Major League Baseball team, there's just not that many openings, right? There's a lot of baseball fans out there, but that doesn't mean you give up. It just means you're going to have to try harder. And if you don't get it immediately, go to work in the ecosystem of that team. Go to work for the people that they outsource ticket sales to, or the people that they do the memorabilia with, the people that, sell the concessions, or, there's all kind of vendors that have the pass, that are wearing the pass to get into the Rangers facility every day. And so you start getting in there, then you'll start working with some executive of Rangers and delivering value. And they'll be like, this guy's sharp. You're like, listen, I don't know what's coming open for the Rangers, but I'd like to move up and work, in the big leagues with you guys when the time's right. And, so you find a way to get on the inside. And it's a little bit long, it's a longer play, but most people won't do it.
Hey, so quick story on that. So I met a guy named Jake.
Oh, hello.
Hey, hello. What's up, everyone? I'm here. Been here the whole time. I met a guy named Jake. He was a Citadel grad and he had no background in IT. And he wanted to work. He lives in Spartanburg, South Carolina. He wanted to work for the Spartanburg Regional Medical System, so the hospital network out in Spartanburg. No qualifications, and he took whatever job they had open. It was a janitorial job at first, just to get in the door. So he's in the building. He loved the building. He loved the company. He's where he worked and wanted to be. So he took, did that. Got, on his own dime, went out and got IT certifications. And after about 5 years in different jobs at the company, he was the IT director for the whole hospital. Started off as the janitor.
That's unbelievable.
So he just knew where he wanted to be, picked his target organization, got in the door, doing whatever he could. He wasn't a janitor for long, but it takes some humility and some creativity and some certainty to know that you're gonna, this is where I want to be. But once you figure that out, it's all to, anything
So-
you can do to make it work.
So our point there, Brandon, for you, you've got a good job and that you know where you want to be. You have your ultimate goal. Then your list of 10, the Rangers would be number 1, but the other 9 would be people that would get you in the door. Okay. Okay, Colton.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So my target area is Birmingham, Alabama. That's where I was born and raised, trying to get back closer to my family. Being from, I guess I love football. I would love to be around football. I'm a big college football guy. So I was hopefully getting to something in that realm. We just had a new league open up and we have a team actually in Birmingham. So I know that they'll probably be like looking for people. And like you said, with how they outsource their tickets and stuff, I could also look at that for that certain team and see how they do that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you want to live in Birmingham, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
great because you have a very specific city and you grew up there and it makes all the sense in the world. So that really helps in figuring this out to know where you want to be. And you sound like you're very sure of that, which is great. And you want to be involved in football, I guess something regarding football, college football. And so what would be the couple of teams you'd most want to work with?
I would mostly want to work with, they're called the Birmingham Stallions, which is
Okay.
like this pro league that they came out with that starts in the spring now, so it doesn't have to compete with the NFL.
Yeah.
And also Auburn Tigers is my favorite college football team.
Okay.
That's like 2 hours south, but
Okay.
it's still definitely an option because that's been my favorite team since I was a baby all the way until now. I watch them every Saturday. So
Tell me about your what you've done in the service again.
I have an IT background, so like I work on basically like networks and radios and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. I think you've got a fairly simple task ahead of you. And you pick these 10 places where you'd like to work, whether they're pro or semi-pro or your favorite college or whatever. But, get 10 of them and include some of the ecosystem companies, the feeder companies, and you've got a good story. You've been in the service, you've got an IT background, and you'd like to work in, what do you call it? Sports administration? Sports?
I guess it could be that, yeah. Or
You just,
yeah.
there needs to be some good wording there. Jack, do you think of some good wording for that?
Yeah, computer information systems, IT in general.
But with sports though.
It's not, IT's universal.
I know, but his story needs to say, I've got this IT background in radio and communications, and I want to apply it to the sports field because I want to be around sports and athletics and, and then put that together in an opening letter or email to these people while you're still in the service and see, see who bites.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it depends. Specifically what you'd like to do. What kind of work would you like to be doing? Is it like network administrator for the team? Is it, data analytics? Is it, what kind of like work function would you like to be doing? What do you enjoy doing?
I was looking to get into the sales portion, but I don't think they have sales really for as far as like besides like ticket sales and memorabilia sales, kind of like what Brandon was talking about with the MLB. But I could always, because I also have a Security Plus I could fall back on to just like kind of a in the door certification and be like a system administrator or something to that effect.
Yeah, they'll have, what most of these teams will have on the sales front is corporate ticketing sales, where you would call on the companies in Birmingham and say, hey, I represent the Stallions and we're doing these VIP things where you can bring your clients. And, it's really actually a pretty cool job, particularly coming back from your duty because your job will be to go call on the most interesting businesses in town. And then from there, that's probably a good entry level sales job coming in. So yeah, I mean, I think you ought to go for that. And I think like Jack says, a fallback job would be an IT job in one of these organizations. Should be kind of easy to get. And then once you're in there, you start applying for the sales job.
Yes, sir. Sounds
Okay,
good.
so why don't you do this for tomorrow? Everyone, start on your list. Start on the list. And we'll talk about the list tomorrow. Okay, Mark.
Good morning, John. So my location or geographical area is in preferably or like in DMV or DC, Maryland, Virginia. And the company that I'm targeting is in robotics or AI applications. That's where like I was like even since I was a kid, always like fascinated with robots, building up. So that's where like kind of like kind of like the next thing that like you're still looking forward for your next job, or like kind of you love your job. So that's where it is. And yeah, I think that's where I see myself.
Good. So you want to be in sales for an AI company in the Maryland, Virginia area.
Yes. Especially it can be like on a defense, maybe in a civilian applications. So it can be both. Especially I think right now it's more in use on predictability pattern. It's being used for even for COVID and the whole thing out. So kind of like that's why I said like the experience I have is totally different, but at the same time the knowledge I have is enormous. I mean, not enormous. I mean, it's enough to kind of like I can explain or I can sell you out this type of product.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
Good. So what would is there such a thing as the main trade show for AI right now?
I'm not sure yet at this time, but I know there are some like robotics or tech expo. Usually they have those in DC area. But those are like major defense contractors. Those are usually the trade shows that kind of like the looking forward trade show every year. I mean, if I have if I have a choice.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So we'll start working on your list of 10 companies. And, Brandon said something earlier, the companies don't have to be in your area. You can just get a job in your area for a company that's elsewhere. But in a perfect world, the company is in your area. Okay. If you're talking about, joining a company and growing with that company, over a period of time, your chances of doing well with them increase the more you're there. And I know that seems kind of counter to what's going on in the world today with, work remote and all that stuff. But if you have a choice, I would say I would want to be close to the people that run the company. It makes you less of a number in the field. Would you agree with that, Jack?
Being close to the company is a benefit versus not. Yeah. Totally. I mean, just for like head trash reasons, even, people want to be able to see you and meet you occasionally in person. So you're not just a face on the Zoom screen.
They'll be like, what is he doing every day?
Yeah. What's he doing? Is he real?
All right. That's very good. Stephen? Oh, is Stephen there? Stephen. Okay, Troy.
Hey, morning. It sounds like a lot of us are into sports, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we're talking completely ideal scenario, I would love to tap into like the sports analytics realm. So I know there's some consulting firms out there that help teams with like recruiting through, data analytics, kind of like a Moneyball situation.
Yeah.
So that would be ideal for me because I love sports, love data analytics. But in terms of the trade show, I would say the South by Southwest Festival. It's kind of like a mixture of everything, right? Like
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
there's live music and stuff, but it's a forum for startups, for emerging technology, software, all those things that I definitely have a lot of interest in. And then on that same wavelength, I would say just how my mentality is. I think working for a startup would be pretty cool. Kind of how you were mentioning working from the ground up with a company,
yeah.
um, being there, brick and mortar, or if it's remote too. That would be great too. I really am not tied down to any one place, but ironically, I would eventually like to be back in Pittsburgh because that's where I'm from, and there is like an emerging startup community in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and then in South Florida as well, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. There's a lot of like startup software sales companies and in those areas too. So that's pretty much where I'm at. So kind of a lot of different arms, but um, I would say the one arm, probably the startup side of things as of right now.
Well, here, I'll give you my take on that, and then Jack can give his. But, definitely you want to start working on your list of top 10 dream places to work. And those places would all be, they would be data analytics and sports related. It would be the cross section of what you're looking for. I think they would be in an interesting hub. Like you wouldn't want to go to like Montana and do it. You'd want to be somewhere where there's a lot of energy around startups like Austin or Miami or Pittsburgh or San Francisco or somewhere where it's kind of happening. Because if you really want to go for it, the thing that you start with, if you're going to a startup in San Francisco, it might not be the thing you end up with, but you might meet some people there and start another one. That doesn't work. And then some other people, and all of a sudden, 3 or 4 times in it, you kind of learn some stuff, and that's kind of when it happens. So I think part of your filter ought to be, it needs to be in an interesting tech hub. So, I don't think it has to be a startup yet. I mean, at this point in your deal, you really want to get in the game and you want to learn. You might then get into a startup, and sales is probably an easier job to get than just about anything else. Because, if I own the startup or the company and I'm like, well, it's not a huge risk to bring you on, Troy, because either you're going to start making me money or you're not. That's kind of how sales works. If you're an owner, is you say,
Yeah.
well, I'll give you 6 months or I'll give you a year, and you show me you can sell stuff and make me money, and we're going to be good friends. So does that help you?
It does. Yeah. So you're saying sales in a kind of so like sales in a tech hub area, it would be a good foot in the door for.
And ideally it's sports and
Mhm.
data analytics. And a backup plan would be just data analytics and learn how to sell that, and then go to a sports company with your information. The other thing I would recommend you do immediately, if you haven't already, is start joining groups of people who discuss data analytics and sports on on all the different chat forums. I know Jack leads a forum on what is it, Jack?
We do a cybersecurity and coffee group meet every Wednesday morning on Clubhouse. So if you guys don't know Clubhouse, it's like a voice chat, global voice chat platform. So we get people from the UK, Australia, Asia, Middle East, all over the United States. People chime in, just kind of have a conversation about whatever the topic is that day. Helps me learn, helps me kind of, field test ideas. I'm very transparent that I'm a cybersecurity sales person. That's my angle. I'm not the technical guy. So we get a lot of technical people in there, teaching stuff. So yeah, definitely. If nothing else, when I tell other people like that and invite them to it, it lends some credibility to me as a cyber person they can come to and trust. So
Yeah. And I would add, then I'll let you take over, Jack, but I would add to all of you, this advice is for all of you, whatever your thing is, sports marketing, sales in major league or whatever it is, find these little sub chat rooms on Reddit and other places, and start to find other people that are doing the same thing, you'll get some, I mean, I've found myself from a chat room, a month after being on the chat room, I'm in Boston and I'm having dinner with the guy who started, what was it, Jack? The file sharing thing for music, Napster. The guy who started Napster in 1999, somehow he found me on this chat room and we're having dinner talking about stuff. So you recommend you do that, and that doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we can be blind to leaving the military is how quick things can happen and how accessible so many people are, right? If you're in one unit and the unit across the country doing something totally different, they're almost on a different planet. But if you're in private sector and you find somebody in a chat room that's interesting, you guys hit it off and you start talking. I mean, it can happen quickly, and you can just think, you're in business together, doing stuff. So one of the best piece of advice I got when I started in sales, obviously, Dad, you've given me a ton of great advice, but this one came from industry vets. They just go sell circuits till you figure out what you're good at. And probably like you guys, I didn't know what a circuit was. I was like, sure, that sounds easy. I don't even know what you're talking about, though. I thought Circuit City, like talking about chips. I really didn't know what they meant. What they meant was, telecommunications, phone and internet connections. But I didn't sell those because they're a commodity until you figure out what you're good at. And then, how you figure that out is trying things. It's getting on forums. It's talking to people. It's, just keep chipping away at your ideas, keep pursuing them, checking things off the list when you realize they're not viable anymore. That's led me into cybersecurity, after about 9 to 12 months of just selling circuits. And I started to see hear this signal coming from the industry that was cybersecurity is not being done right almost anywhere. Government, private sector, small business, large business, whatever, nonprofit. No one's really doing a good job of it. And beyond that, training was really kind of an afterthought, right? Military people really understand training. We appreciate it. We know it. We live it, we breathe it. Companies aren't doing that. So I kind of went from really big, I'm selling circuits to everybody in the world, to selling circuits to the upstate of South Carolina, to I'm selling, cybersecurity to the upstate, to I'm selling, cybersecurity training to the upstate of South Carolina. So that's what I'm good at. That's what I've kind of whittled away at this giant, problem, and found that that's something that I can do, something that I can be, one of very few people that are doing it the way we're doing it. And so that's that little piece of advice, just find something that you can sell, whether it's for a company or independently like we do. And just start there, right? It doesn't have to be the perfect thing, the perfect fit. Troy, to your quest to get into sports analytics, I started last year. This is my second year doing it. I play a lot of fantasy football. That's a way I keep in touch with my buddies and my platoon guys. I'm actually the commissioner of our league. But I sucked, right? So my entry point into analytics was trying to not suck at fantasy football. And then I played a lot and watched a lot. And starting last year, one of the outfits that I followed from sports analytic perspective was looking for contract analysts, people to come in and just watch football and chart every play. So I started doing that one day a week. It's not my primary job. It's not what I'm going to pursue as a professional career, or, really does it only, basically monetize as a hobby. But that kind of stuff is out there, right? So you can kind of find a way to break in doing, part-time work in the area that you're interested in while you're doing your main thing. And then maybe that flips one day and becomes your main thing. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'm going to belabor that point just a little bit, because I've heard many stories of people who wanted to work at my company. And, what I didn't want to hear is someone just to come in and say, I really, really want to work at your company. It's a really good company and I really want to work at your company. I mean, that's just so dumb. That's like saying, I really want to work for the Cowboys. The Cowboys. Of course you want to work for the Cowboys, it's the most famous team in America. Or I really want to work for the Steelers. I mean, who wouldn't if you're from Pittsburgh? So you have to have a story. And if the story said something like, I really want to work for the Steelers, of course. I mean, who wouldn't from Pittsburgh? But here's what I've done to prepare for it. I've worked in the Steelers Farm League. I've sold tickets. I've volunteered for Steelers on Saturdays. I've got a side business where I do analytics for the Steelers. I do some radio broadcasting for the local I mean, you got 5 or 6 things surrounding the Steelers, and you've shown that you've done it for, a couple of years. That's what I want to hear as an owner. And so you want to create the best possible story that makes sense for you and for them. Because, you need to have your own reason for why you want to get this job that you're going for. That's part of what we're doing, in this training, is helping you figure out what's your story that you can tell yourself why you want it, and then tell the people you're going for. Because then once you do that, once you tell them the story, then it's like, now, it's just their move. Do they want to play or don't they? Because if not, we're going to go play somewhere else. So we're not begging just to go work for this guy's company. Does that make sense, Jack?
Yeah, no, I think actions speak louder than words. Totally. So if you are, the fact that I've done some performance analysis for the NFL, if I wanted to go get a job, say working as an analyst, even working in sales, that's going to go a long way to say that, hey, this guy's not just asking for what he wants. He's doing what he wants and trying to use that as a way to kind of get in the door, right? It's, yeah, I totally agree.
So did we miss anybody on the review? I think it was maybe somebody who wasn't at the desk.
I think it was Steven, John.
Yes, Steven,
Okay.
he just said he had
Okay.
to step away from an urgent matter. Steven, are you back?
I'm back. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, man.
Okay, good. I'm following. Yeah, I sorry about that. That was actually an urgent administration matter to actually get me the paperwork to get out of here. So it's 5 p.m. He calls me at 5 p.m. I'm like, ooh, all right. I better take this. Yeah. So, I really appreciate the question. Definitely done a lot of soul searching on this. And, Jack and I have previously talked a lot about the importance of just figuring out the lifestyle that we want. For me, I'm going to tell you that the thing that I'm really looking for, what really matters, is the company culture, just kind of the culture in the firm, and like the leadership style. So I think I can sell different things as long as I'm part of a good team, and that's probably the bigger red flag of where I'm starting. But when it comes to my main passion is anything that like improves lives, and that's where medical technology comes in. And then the last piece of that, of course, is I attended the virtual outbound conference. It's essentially just a generic sales conference. And I would like to go back to that every single year. And I know that's a little bit different, but I think there are some things I'm interested in, and things that spark my my intrigue. But I will tell you that there's other things that are more important than like a hobby or something. I'm leaning much more into just what we're doing now with sales training. That's really exciting and really gets me fired up. Being part, but also kind of watching out for the bad stuff, and blending those two sides together. But I hope that answers the question of just what's kind of funneling me in. And then I think this generic sales conference I just mentioned, is the thing that just fires me up.
So what was this conference?
Again, it was Outbound Conference. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. A lot of the people that are part of it are part of Sales Gravy University. They do kind of like your Udemy or Coursera types of courses that are all sales focused, soft skill stuff.
And so,
go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. So, remind me where you want to live.
Yeah. So I want to live in the DC area. I'm pointing at that. I have family both between there and down to Asheville. We're actually in your neck of the woods. Us being around family is just very important, right? We've been all over the world. That's great, but we want to be kind of closer to family.
Well, just, an idea for you. And again, the
Sure.
trade show question is kind of a trick question because once someone's answers it, it's kind of like, well, that's a good place to start. So if you really like the idea, I mean, being a sales trainer, one of the things that I love about it and Jack loves about it is we are helping people. You're helping people, get more confident, make more money, have a better life, all that stuff. It feels good. So, your list could include some sales training companies. Some companies where you would go to work for, there's one called John Maxwell. There's one called Zig Ziglar's a great one. There's one called Sandler Training is probably the most popular. And I can tell you exactly how those things work, as we get into it. But it's just one of those things where, you would work for somebody who had a local area for a little while and then probably get your own at some point. But, the great thing about being in that particular business, if you like sales and training, is you yourself are continually getting reinforced with training. It's just constant reinforcement of positive things and training and all kind of stuff. So I think that might be something that we could explore.
Okay, yeah, I really appreciate that. I never thought of that, and really in my previous life, I was a trainer. That was a big part of my job. So I can't believe I never thought of that.
Well, you're used to being
Thank
out
you.
in front. You're used to being out in front of all the people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I think we got everybody. We did the review, Jacko. We could review the Sales 101 stuff we did yesterday, Jack. We got about halfway through the submarine. We could take that through, or we could just sit on that till tomorrow and let you talk about kind of the transition stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about transition stuff. There's one thing in particular I wanted to get out there as early as possible, just so people can have some time to noodle on it, because it's taken me, multiple years to kind of fully grasp, because I didn't know the first thing about any sales coming out. So this was one of the things that was opaque to me. But the difference between a direct sales channel and indirect sales channel, and the fact different sales channels in general existing, is anyone familiar with that distinction or know what indirect sales is?
Would that just basically be posting your merchandise on, say, like a website or something like that?
Could
You're
be.
not actively engaging.
That's a good attempt. Anyone else want to take a stab at it? Okay. To avoid unnecessary suspense. So direct sales in a nutshell is, company A sells products as company A, right? So AT&T, for example, they've got hardware, software, services that they sell, but they're all AT&T stuff. If you're a direct salesperson for AT&T, your job is to sell stuff for AT&T, right? Pretty cut and dry. That's what most of us know as sales. And that's still probably the majority of the way that B2B sales, tech sales go down. That's what I knew. That was all I really understood coming out, was that I'm going to go maybe sell somebody else's services to, I have a monthly quota, I'll have a sales manager. That was it. So indirect sales is company, AT&T relies on third parties to do the sales and marketing for them. So third parties being someone like us, right? We are a AT&T sales partners. We can sell AT&T and get commissioned by them, even though we don't work for them. So that, just in a nutshell, does that distinction between direct and indirect check out with everybody? Somebody have any questions? So this was an avenue, a channel, an opportunity that I was completely blind to. I didn't know it existed. It took me a while to kind of figure out the ins and outs and why a company like AT&T or anyone else would want to have an indirect sales program. Dad, you can talk a little bit about your experience as a direct sales manager. You guys had an indirect channel, but it was kind of an afterthought. So most companies have some combination of both, especially in the tech world. Benefits to indirect sales for the company are, you don't have to hire salespeople, right? I can sell something for AT&T and they don't pay me until I sell something. So, that's a huge benefit. It doesn't cost as much for them to run indirect sales. The downside for them is they don't have that tight control. They can't make me do anything because I don't work for them. I don't have a quota. It's a good thing, right? I'm not trying to like make AT&T's number for them at any point. So, what that does for me and what that does for our customers is that gives them someone who's independent and neutral. So if you're talking to an AT&T salesperson, just kind of inherently they are biased toward AT&T, right? They're not going to sell you someone else's stuff because they would get fired. So, for an indirect, sales partner like myself, like Hound, I can sell you whoever's best for you, right? If all the top 10 ISPs out there have an indirect sales program, which they do, I can sell you any of them, right? It just matters, who's available, who's the best for you, who's going to be the best bang for your buck, who do I recommend? And so that really lets me be, on the customer side of the table when we're going to negotiate with the AT&Ts of the world and say, hey, this is what they need. If you can't make this happen, we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to find somebody else. So I become, in effect, their agent in the deal, right? Same way you buy a house, you have a real estate agent that you work with. That real estate agent is independent. They don't work for anybody. They don't work for the seller for sure. And they only get paid when you sell something. So I hope that is an effective crash course in direct versus indirect sales. But that's something just to be aware of, because most of these conversations have been, who can we go work for? Which company can we go get hired onto and become a salesperson or an analyst or whatever it is that we're trying to do? The reality is this whole other world of indirect sales that you will certainly encounter at some point. And it affords a lot of the things that I think I've certainly found myself gravitating toward, right? Not having a boss, not having someone who's got a quota or the possibility of getting fired looming over your head. You can work from home, work the way you want to work, right? Work with the companies you want to work with. It also gives you a lot of variety. I really appreciate the fact that I can work with 50 different vendors on any given week. Same thing with multiple clients. And so, I think there's pros and cons. You need stability. If you need a baseline paycheck and benefits and stuff coming out of the gate, then direct sales is a pretty good option, right? If you can get that direct sales gig, they're going to give you a base salary. They're going to pay you commissions on top of that. You're going to get benefits and all the trappings of having an office team and expense account, whatever. Downside is you're not your own boss, right? You've got a boss. You've got monthly number to hit. Dad, you want to say anything more about indirect versus direct?
Well, I think if I was just starting out in sales like they are, being direct is probably something to consider, because you kind of need that discipline of somebody making sure you made so many calls every day. And all. You started with that a little bit when you started, just knowing exactly what to do every day.
I do still struggle with that, right? It's one of the downsides of being self-employed and indirect sales is that there is no urgency to go out there and hit your number, other than survival, other than putting food on the table and stuff like that. So no one's telling you what to do. I can take a day and Tuesday and just fuck off. No one's going to tell me not to do that. So it's
both. It's good and bad, but I would advise them, unless they really feel comfortable being on their own. The best people we know in Jack's business, spent a certain number of years at an AT&T or MCI or someone like that, and kind of learned the business, made their network, and then they went on their own and they stole some customers.
They didn't steal. Most of the time, the AT&Ts of the world will actually say, give their blessing and say, it's financially beneficial to us for you to take these customers indirect, right? We can fire you as a full-time employee. We don't have to pay you unless you keep selling and bringing us new business. And you get to start with a $500,000 book of business, right? That's we thought we had these thoughts coming into it that we were going to set the world on fire, and reality is we were starting from scratch. We were starting from zero, commissions. A lot of the big players in indirect sales, like you said, worked at a big time, tech company selling for them, they had these relationships with, some of their key clients, and they were able to take those relationships indirect and work, start their own business as essentially as an indirect sales shop. So,
And then one of the things they asked about yesterday, Jack, was to talk more about Cloud Hound in the business. And, one of the things that Jack did smartly was when he started Cloud Hound, he partnered up with a bigger distributor. And for the first year, that distributor wasn't his boss. They were kind of the senior partner, and they would just advise him what to do. They would help him close deals, answer questions. And so that's one thing that Cloud Hound is doing now for other people. So you want to talk about that, Jack?
yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, we did, everyone in the military is familiar with the left seat, right seat concept. So you're not going to get just a cold handoff from somebody and say, hey, you got it now, go run with it. You're going to get a couple weeks or months of like, hey, I'm going to show you the ropes. I'm going to kind of teach you the job, make sure that you're trained up and put you in a position to succeed, though you're not just flying blind. So same thing. We found a partner out in Arizona. They did what we just described, right? They worked for one of the big telcos for 20 years. Big telco said, hey, we want to fire you and have you take these customers with you and keep it with us and, make it an indirect sales business. And so they did that. They were very successful, kind of took that $500,000 book of business and grew it to multiple millions. And so we said, okay, how can we learn from you? The only cost for us was splitting commissions. So if we found a really juicy opportunity and they helped us close it, we split all the commissions down the middle. So, our first couple of sales were with those women from Lanyap, and they helped us kind of kickstart the operation. So that's something we do now. So that's my growth strategy. Is it's twofold. One, we get to help people start their sales careers, potentially enabling the lifestyles that we want without having to go to work for somebody else. Because my philosophy is that deep down, none of us really want to go to work for anybody, because all companies suck in different ways. Like, I don't really want to go to work for anybody else. Once you work for the DoD, it's like you're kind of ruined. But that's everyone's own prerogative. But say, through the course of this program, right, we want this to be as close to on-the-job training as possible. We don't want to do, all classroom, all theoretical, all talk. We want to actually, help the rubber meet the road for you. So, as we get down the road in this program, we'll be asking you to do stuff like, once you've identified your kind of target market, target network area, target area, look at what opportunities are in that area, right? We'll do some sales calls together. We'll do some, reconnaissance with you to say, hey, this is where you could actually find an opportunity to make a sale, and then do the same thing that the other agency did for us, which is show us the way, right? If one of you we helped one of you close a deal before the end of this 2 months, that would be fantastic, right? Get your first sale under your belt before you even left the military, it'd be huge. And reality is, if you found a big enough opportunity, you might not need to go work for someone else, right? I mean, the name of the game in another, I guess, thing to understand about selling is, regardless of what you're selling, you're either going to make a one-time commission on it, or you're going to make recurring commissions, right? So in our world, in the tech world, the general kind of delineation is hardware versus services. Hardware sales are typically one time, typically a capital expenditure, big dollar amount, and the seller gets a one-time commission of like 4% or whatever, 3, 4, 5%, depending on the vendor. So that's that's nice. If you're selling $1 million suite of hardware and you're getting 4%, that's a solid payday, right? 40 grand. But if you got to go, restart from zero effectively the next month, right? You sell $40,000 in commissions in January, you can start back at a zero in February. So you're constantly having to go back and, keep re-upping and making your money that way. In services, it's a little bit different. So if you sell, say, a subscription, like a SaaS subscription, software as a service, think, Salesforce CRM, think AT&T Internet, phone service, anything that a business is paying for monthly as a subscription versus like, hey, we're going to buy this and own it. They're paying monthly, therefore the commissions come monthly. So say their bill's $10,000 a month, commission percentages. Typically, I think we use 17% as an average, somewhere between 10 and 20%, is the range. So the bill will be lower, but you're getting a monthly commission off that sale. So if I sell AT&T, internet to someone, say they're spending $1,000 a month for fiber, I'm getting 17% of that monthly as a commission check for as long as they're paying. They could have that fiber circuit for 10 years. That's a 10-year recurring contract that's paying residuals. So we've got one guy, he's a retired Marine. His specialty was network engineering. So he came out of the Marines as a network engineer, started his own consulting practice doing kind of like network projects, wiring, installing cameras, installing switches and stuff like that for manufacturers in the area. So he's got some pretty big manufacturers kind of across the country that he's essentially a fractional employee for. And one of his customers got hit with a ransomware. We were able to provide the incident response service for that, and then signed that customer up for security operations center as a service. And so we now split the commissions from all that effort down the middle. We just both get a paycheck every month or a commission check for that sale. And that's potentially something we could do with any of you guys, is if as we're doing discovery, as we're doing reconnaissance, helping you map your network, helping you kind of like drill down on where it is that you could, find success. If you find an opportunity that's live, we'll help you close it, and we'll, split those commissions down the middle. And that way you can, my operating mentality is, if I'm making $10,000 a month, then what? What do I want to do then? What life do I want to live? How do I want to, operate? What would I do if that was true? That's been my goal since I started Cloud Hound, is how do I get, 120K a year in recurring commissions? The arbitrary number, nice round number, 10,000 a month, but figure out whatever you could potentially, the whole conversation about who do you want to go work for could be irrelevant if you could just make a couple of sales that fund your lifestyle. I mean, that's the end of the day. I think that's the part of this whole equation. I don't think most folks, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but coming out of the military, you have this like, I need to jump out of this frying pan, get right into the fire, and go work for somebody else just as hard, if not harder, as I was working in the military. And that's just not true. You don't have to do that. So, if I want to put a bow on this rant, I'd say, expand your kind of horizon a little bit. Consider what you could, what could be your reality here in the next 6 to 12 months. And like I said a couple days ago, if you don't imagine it for yourself, someone else will imagine it for you and kind of dictate terms. So any thoughts or questions on any of that? I just covered a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. What's up, Mark?
Question. Have you ever like signed a non-disclosure agreement when you were like selling this stuff with a direct? Like sometimes it could be an issue also because, or like you're like a third party seller, like you're like a free market in there. But like one thing that I'm going to is like the conflict of interest. How do you solve that with the companies that have like the same structure or the same?
Are you asking about conflict of interest between like selling company A versus selling company B?
Yeah, and then along the way, like sometimes, like especially those products, sometimes kind of like trade secrets or something like that.
Yeah.
And
No, totally. There are when you sign up as an indirect sales partner, you do make some promises that you're not going to like take company A's playbook and give it to company B. And if you do that, it's kind of informal, but I understand you basically can get blackballed as a sales partner. So no other companies are going to want to work with you because you've mistreated one company's information, right? So if you get like, for example, I have access to the wholesale prices for a lot of different companies. And so they don't want me to share wholesale pricing from company A with wholesale pricing from company B because that's a proprietary, insider information that only, either employees or trusted partners have. And so there are some companies that might ask you to sign an NDA. It's not standard practice. It's more of an informal thing that if someone gets wind of you kind of, selling, not even selling, just, using or sharing their information they've asked you not to share, you'll just be persona non grata.
Hey,
Good question,
Jack,
though.
Brandon here. Yeah.
What's up, Brandon?
Would you say, because I know you have a training side to your business, right? you're talking about that finite area that you do one-on-one training. Would you say that's kind of your bread and butter? Like that's kind of the monthly paycheck of the company, along with some monthly maybe leases, those commission payments, and everything else is kind of gravy, or how does that work for your company?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this kind of gets down into, setting your own sales strategy and as an indirect salesperson. So, the biggest money maker for us today is Security Operations Center as a service, right? It's kind of a per endpoint per month cost of about $20 a month, more or less. So if you get into our biggest customer has 1,500 endpoints. So they're spending 30,000 a month on keeping those endpoints monitored, protected.
Well, hey, Jack, what's an endpoint?
Endpoint, anything connected to the network, right? User device, laptop, tablet, server, printer, anything that's on the network is kind of the end user device, right? So think IoT. You go to a factory, you've got machines that are connected to the network. Those machines are now endpoints. So a security camera is an endpoint, right? Access control unit on a door, endpoint. Anything that's communicating with the network that's doesn't go anywhere past that endpoint. So that's how we make the most money. But I can't, I could go out and try and sell Security Operations Center, cold call people. But the reality that I've found is that no one's going to give you the time of day if you just call them and say, hey, can we talk about your security strategy? And like, no, I'm not going to tell this random dude on the phone our security strategy. But being positioned to be someone's go-to security person when they need it is kind of how I've gone to market. So I use security training as I don't know if you guys have talked about this in the sales 101 piece, but have you guys talked about a monkey's paw or monkey's fist?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so that's a great time to do that. So you Navy folks know, nautical term, the monkey's paw is a knot you tie at the end of a rope. You give that end of the line some weight so you can whip it over across to another ship, right? Everybody familiar with that idea that gets you across, right? And then you can tie off and send bigger stuff across. And so for sales analogy, monkey's paw is a way to get in the door with a company, something small and easy that gives them a chance to kind of evaluate you as a salesperson, as a contact, gets you to kind of see how their purchasing process works, how many people need to be involved in decision, is there a legal review, is there a committee, what has to happen for them to make a decision to buy something. You learn all that with a monkey's paw. So I use training almost as a monkey's paw because it doesn't make us that much money. It's almost a irrelevant amount of money we're making from security training. It's a way to establish kind of credibility that we know what we're doing. It's also a thing that I think is important that most companies aren't doing. It's just it doesn't have a really high dollar amount. So people pay for training, it's going to be pennies compared to what they spend on technology. So the idea is sell training, market training, and then when people work with us as trainers, we're the natural go-to when they need technology stuff, right? When they have a security incident, when they need to upgrade systems, when they have whatever, say, hey, Jack, thanks for helping us with this training stuff. You guys have been great. We have a problem. We need some help. That was my thought, was that like, it's really hard to know. It's almost like popcorn. You don't know when each individual kernel is going to pop. You just want to be there when it does. So I want to be in the forefront of their mind. I want to occupy that space in in my customer's brain as the security guy, right? So the way I can do that is leveraging my background as a training specialist in the Navy. I think it's a huge market gap. There was an industry survey done of like CISOs, CISOs and chief security officers around the country. The top three for them, training's in the top three in terms of priorities, and it's in the bottom three in terms of spend, right? So companies are not prioritizing training, even though it's the thing that all the security people are telling them they need to do. So I figured if we can make a name for ourselves being the training people, where they come to us for training advice, for training programs, I'm a big believer in third-party training. The SEAL teams don't train internally anymore. We don't do in-house training because it produces inconsistent results, right? You kind of give your buddies a pass. You don't really, hey, yeah, I know you kind of fucked that run up a little bit. Technically, I should fail you on it, but we're buddies, right? We have to be in the same platoon together. I'm not going to really fail you versus, a third party coming in and giving you kind of a standard to follow, essentially. So that's my pitch on why we do training as kind of our lead service is because it's different than what most tech salespeople that are trying to sell cybersecurity are trying to sell systems, they're trying to sell software, they're trying to sell widgets and stuff to keep people secure. And that marketplace is flooded. It is busy. So, you know, we're trying to zig when everyone else is zagging, still be there to set up when someone needs something. Way to establish trust with customers and get in the door that way. So does that help, Brandon?
It does. Thank you. And I really appreciate you both, John and yourself, kind of opening the doors, talking about even the entrepreneurial kind of side of things. That's like Stephen wasn't thinking of actually training sales, because I absolutely think that's something he could do. He has that sort of personality, you know, just another tool in the toolbox. Appreciate
Got
Well,
it.
you're welcome. And that we feel like, you know, we take it real seriously. If we can help y'all figure out that best path, then help you land that job, you know, we're going to feel real good about that. So we'll work hard for that. And I think, Jack, we're finished for today. If you
Yeah,
wanna
we're
do-
at 12. What's the, do you have homework for tomorrow? Do you have the, do your list of 10, right?
I would say list of 10 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good place to start. We can start looking at that. If you guys haven't already, reach out, connect with us on LinkedIn. That's a great place to, I know that, that Jordy and the 7 Eagle folks are going to give you guys some LinkedIn training. We will kind of spare the double tap on that, but definitely connect with us on LinkedIn so we can, you know, formalize our network.
Let's add one more homework for tomorrow. Let's everyone find one chat room that's where you can join in and talk about your specific interest we're talking about.
Yeah. It might even be just like Twitter, you know, finding some people on Twitter that talk about what you like to talk about, or other social media. So that's a great idea. And then we will talk about the list of 10 tomorrow, and also talk about the chat room, the whatever forums you find that are relevant to what you're trying to do. And if you guys have problems or issues with that, or, you know, trouble coming up with something, because I had no clue. I was not on social media at all as of 2017. So understandable that if you're kind of behind the curve there, we're happy to kind of offer ideas and get creative with you.
Can I ask one more question about that top 10, gents?
Yeah.
You know, just hearing the word come out of Steven's mouth, the hobby. I have a lot of realist in me as well. I definitely want to go for a passion, but I also want to have a base of some kind of comfortability that I'm with a company that's going to be, you know, for years to come. Would it not be wise somewhere in that top 10? So I'm in the DFW area. I worked on the base for years that is right across from Lockheed. I know Jordy doesn't want us put in some of these top companies that have their own skill bridge programs in certain areas. But wouldn't it be crazy if Lockheed's not on my list?
Well, I mean, I would say it would be smart. Everyone have, let's call it a safe job, you know, something that you feel like you can get. You know, just when I say safe, I mean, I'm not asking this question, but this is for yourself. What are your financial requirements? You know, what is going to happen when you get out? How much money do you need, and where can you get that money from? That's a very practical way to look at things. The other is, you know, where am I going to be the happiest? And, you know, let's shoot for the happiest, but let's make sure we have that thing figured. Now, my opinion, you know, I just think anybody would just get sucked into Lockheed and just get, you know, pull all the life out of you somehow. But hopefully there's a better place to go than that. But that's just my opinion. Of course, I've never been to Lockheed. I've never been to Lockheed either.
All right, yeah, I appreciate it. I was kind of looking at their janitorial service anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my 2 cents on that is, you know, what are your priorities, right? Really, this is kind of why we start with priorities and work-life balance and lifestyle and everything, is because if you don't have that sorted, you know, like I said, I jumped into trying to get a job in Silicon Valley almost right away. I was enamored with it. I found a company that was really cool. The founder had an amazing story, just like in love with it. And it wasn't until I didn't get that job and kind of like zoomed out and were like, holy shit, I would have been miserable. You know, driving from San Jose to the Bay Area every day, making 60K, so making considerably less than I made in the Navy. to work, associate job for a freight forwarding company. Like, like what the fuck am I doing? Like that would have been a nightmare. And I've heard so many veterans, talk about getting out and, doing something that they thought they were supposed to do, but they hadn't really figured out what their priorities were, because they're used to just having the military kind of tell them, hey, you're going to Okinawa, you're going to, Fort Polk or whatever. Like, oh shit, go to Fort Polk, that sucks. So that's why we start there, is figure out what's important to you. If it's spending time with your family, taking an outside sales job where you travel half the time, probably not, not it. So if stability and having a name brand on your resume, and then Lockheed would be great, right? If you want to stay in that world, you could go work for Lockheed for 2 years and then get out and become I talked to a guy this morning. I didn't tell you guys, but I do on the side, I work with veterans in entrepreneurship, helping them start their own businesses. And talked to the guy, and they got an idea that's super hot. They're going to have the government pay for all the funding in R&D, and if they can get to that phase 3 SBIR, they're going to be millionaires, because they can sell a phase 3 SBIR company for 10x or more. They're hot commodities, so the Lockheeds of the world will buy those. So I think it's a mindset first and foremost, right? Even if you are a full-time employee for someone like Lockheed, there's always opportunities to quit and sell them something that they were missing in the first place, right? So my 2 cents, but yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to cut you off, but I do need
Please do,
to
cut me off.
try
I need
and
it.
keep it going on time. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jack. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Sales cohort, you guys can go ahead and take your break. Tech, we're going to roll you guys into your breakout rooms. And then everybody meet back here, well, except for Jack and John, meet back here at 1, and we're going to do SMART goals today. So if you have not taken a chance to look at the professional development tab on our cohort website, please do, and pull up that SMART goals document.